Okay, welcome back. Now, if I wanted to normalize this file that we've been looking at, it wouldn't really help this second section because, as we know, the normalize process would find our loudest point in the first part. Remember what we played at the end of the last tutorial? And that registered at minus 0.1 of a decibel. So what I need to do is split the file so that as a consequence I can normalize just the quietest part. And remember, our quietest part now is the second section. So what I need to do is place my cursor at the desired split point, and I'll place it here just before our second section, and then right click and roll up there and go to split, the shortcut there being S on your keyboard. So now our one original event is now split into two, ready for me to normalize just the second section. Now you might be thinking I don't need to normalize because I could use the volume slider found here and take this up by sliding to the right by a couple of decibels. So if I increase this by a couple of decibels, well, 2.3 there, well, yes, this would allow the second part to be played louder without distorting. But this is the important bit. Remember, our first part is affected by the track volume slider too. Anything on track 2 will be affected by what we do over here. Hence, the first section, which already peaks at minus 0.1 of a decibel, will now distort, as it would now be increased by more than a couple of decibels above optimum level at 0 dB. And we don't want digital distortion. It's horrible. I'll show you what I mean. First of all, I'll place my cursor at the start of clip 2, and because we've increased the audio level by using the volume slider by a couple of decibels, well, just a bit more than a couple of decibels, well, this should still be okay for our second section, our second event. I'll show you what I mean. I'll hit play.
What I still scared, there's always days like these.
Okay, as I said, the second part is fine. It's now raised enough to go to 0 dB without distorting. But, as I mentioned a few moments ago, the first section has been increased too, so this will distort. Now, by making sure my cursor is at the beginning, we'll not only hear this, we'll see it as well on the level meters. So I'll hit play now.
White Star rocket ships fill the...
And there you go. You can see the red peak indicator warnings light up to indicate that we distorted at certain points, i.e. going above 0 dB. Now if I click on these peak indicators to reset them, and I'll also do the main meters too. And of course I now need to take my slider, my volume slider, back down to 0 dB. So we're neither increasing or decreasing the volume overall for the whole of the track. To be able to quickly do this, double click on it there and just type in 0. Right, let's normalize our second part so that it doesn't affect the first part. What we need to do is select event number 2, right click on it and then run up to switches and then across and down to the bottom option, normalize. Now just before I do that, before I click on it, even though you can't quite see it so easily at this screen resolution and this pop-up obscuring it slightly, notice our waveform. In a second when I do click on normalize, our waveform will jump up. It will increase. So I'll click now. See, the waveform has been searched, the loudest point found, and whatever the result was, and it was around about 2 decibels down, then the whole of event 2 has been raised by that amount. And note, as we've said, it didn't alter event number 1. Let's play it just to make sure. I'll place my cursor at the beginning of event number 2 there and hit play.
What I still scared, there's always days like these. I can't wake up, slept too peacefully.
Great stuff, it didn't distort. It actually peaked at 0 dB, as opposed to minus 0.1 of a decibel for the first part. And that's because our first part was normalized to that level, minus 0.1 of a decibel. Whereas here, by normalizing within Vegas, as opposed to normalizing in Audition, I set the normalization process to increase the volume to 0 dB at its loudest point. Okay, so that's normalizing, and we've seen a couple of tutorials now which hopefully make the process clear to you.